This could be the most important week in the entire crypto timeline, going all the way back to the early 80s when research began on cryptography and how to connect distributed computer systems. That's how important this is. Because confirmed ISO 20022 will be implemented July 14th for the Fed Wire Funds service. This will also include the Fed Now instant payment system, which we have done extensive research on. But there's another element to this story, guys, that I'm going to reveal to you towards the end of this segment. But first, I want to get you ready for the changes here because there has been a number of changes since we last discussed this ISO topic. Number one being the list of known ISO 20022 ready crypto projects. Now, listed here on this graphic, I did add the originals. We'll call them the originals, the few 5 or 6 assets that were originally associated as being a part of this transition. You have Quant, Ripple, Stellar, Hedera, XDC, IOTA. I did not add Algorand to this list because one of their leadership, Stacey Warden, the former or current CEO of the Algorand Foundation, I believe she's still the CEO of the Algorand Foundation, but I'll never forget an interview she did where she explicitly stated, I have no idea what ISO 20022 is. This was 2022. So for that reason, I didn't add Algorand to this particular graphic. However, if you believe that Algorand is one of these ISO ready cryptos, then more power to you. I'm not knocking that at all. This list contains the assets that I have literally seen documentation for where they explicitly state that this network is ISO ready. And I know you're looking at some of these names and you've probably turned away from the video, but if you're still here, let me explain to you why you see these names. Crypto.com, we discovered a couple years ago that not only will they be able to run ISO 20022 messages, but they're also ISO compliant in the field of information technology as well as cybersecurity. Then we have Polkadot, who recently, towards the end of last year, set up a relationship in the SEPA instant payment area. This SEPA instant payment area focuses on the EU market, and it has been running ISO 20022 going on about 3 years now. It was I want to call it magic money, but we reported on it. It's on the channel. Polkadot will be facilitating ISO 20022 payments if they haven't started already, because remember, this story came out towards the end of last year. The IOTA network, when it comes to microtransactions and the various RWAs that they look to get involved with, ISO 20022 will be needed as the rest of the participating financial institutions in the United States, which IOTA has been leaning heavily into recently, will be using. And then you have other networks like Corium and Stronghold who entered the market focused at this ISO 20022 transition. What I'm getting at here, guys, is that the list that we originally discovered, the ISO protocol family that was discovered in July of 2022, there's that July date again, that list isn't as exclusive because implementing ISO 20022 is simply adding the code. Any of these networks can do it. That is why you see names like Bitcoin, thanks to the XDC network and a company that used to be known as Impel. The technology has since been incorporated into the XDC network, but they have an ISO 20022 bridge that allows you to run those transactions on the Bitcoin network. On Bitcoin. People still ain't digested that one. And if you can pull off that same mechanism, thanks to XDC, then surely Ethereum, Solana, Tron will be next, especially when you take a look at what Chainlink has been doing on the infrastructure level for assets like Ethereum, Solana, and Tron. All of the pieces are coming together, folks. And it won't just be US banks, credit unions, and financial service providers. This will also include the likes of Visa, MasterCard, and other payment infrastructure providers that we have researched and are very familiar with. In addition, the FedWire, Federal Reserve, they published this newsletter. And in the June edition, they gave us an idea of just how ready the US market is. Guys, you look all the way over to the left. As of May 30th, everybody's at 100%. They're ready to go. They are ready to do this. So, like I said at the top of the segment, this ISO20022 thing, it's so fascinating because it has evolved so much over time. And I remember going back and forth with many people in the space about if it will even happen. Will it even impact the assets that everyone assumes that it will impact? Guys, what we have come to understand is that this represents the multi-chain renaissance that is about to enter crypto. We have seen little hints here and there of the most prominent networks attaching themselves to other prominent networks. This is why Chainlink has been the topic of discussion all throughout 2025 as being the primary connector of networks. They're also working with traditional financial institutions like JP Morgan to bring traditional financial assets on chain. So clearly, we're in a multi-chain world, okay? That means that more than one network will be plugged into this. Like I said, I have done extensive research on the FedNow, the Federal Reserve, this ISO movement, this transition. Going back into looking into the information, preparing for this segment, right? I stumbled upon this quote here from Citigroup. They're getting ready to unveil yet another platform that will allow traditional financial institutions to adopt this new messaging standard. But I want to point out to you a particular sentence here where they say, to reap the benefits of migration, banks will need a partner that can connect the dots with links to clearing systems globally and the advanced solutions necessary to deliver streamlined access. So what have we seen in recent months? Just in the last, since the top of the year, ladies and gentlemen, we have seen more traditional banking players, traditional finance players getting a lot closer to blockchain. Yes, because the current administration has increased trust around doing so. It just confirms the speculation that we have had for years about the fact that without a few of these networks, not all of them, but certain networks are going to be very crucial in aiding traditional financial players in this transition. Citi just confirmed it. Now, I'll add another layer to it. In the FedNow documentation, there is a rule that states non-financial companies can partner with third-party tech providers. I can't remember the rule in the moment. Please forgive me. But I covered it in one of the docs that I have available to the members of this channel called FedNow, the Bigger Agenda. As a matter of fact, I led with this entire piece of evidence. It clearly states that participants within the FedNow or FedWire system, if needed, can contract a third-party tech provider to improve their services. The third-party tech providers that we are all familiar with that are capable of doing this are the blockchain networks that are often associated with this ISO transition. Now, again, this is going to mark the final wave of the transition. The United States, Europe, UK, they needed to catch up. But you see, Australia, Switzerland, Japan, China, India, other very powerful economies have already adopted this messaging standard. Now, with that information, you can take a look at how more advanced some of their digital payment infrastructures are. As far as I know, India has the best digital payments infrastructure on the planet, and it has been that way ever since they adopted this ISO messaging standard. We already know how China is coming. We already know how Japan is coming. Switzerland is the financial epicenter of the entire world, and they already adopted ISO 20022. So, knowing that as well, going back to the list of ISO compatible networks, we haven't even begun to dig into the networks that are working in India, China, Switzerland that could potentially already be running ISO transactions. There could already be ISO ready networks in the market, and they could have already been here for years because a lot of these nations, they picked up the standard before 2020, ladies and gentlemen, prior to 2020. I made a post on X this morning, may have been a bit deep, but there's something special about the number 14. There's something very special about the number 14. And then we also can't forget about stable coins in this discussion. And it's fitting because this morning it all hit me. There's something special about the number 14, guys. Some of the OG listeners, you may remember, every chance I get, especially since we've been covering Circle the last few months, every chance I get, I say, global stablecoin arrangements, here they come. Global stablecoin arrangements, here they come. Where was I getting that from? In 2020, G20 nations came together and agreed upon a plan to reduce cross-border payments worldwide. They didn't come up with a particular end date for when this would happen, but this was in 2020, under the chaos of the COVID-19 pandemic. Turn your attention to building block number 14. Adopt a harmonized version of ISO 20022 for message formats. There's something about the number 14. On July 14th, we know the migration will happen in one day. Starting July 14th, we know they're going to be discussing the Clarity Act, the Anti-CBDC State Surveillance Act, as well as the Genius Act around stablecoins. Right? The Clarity and the Anti-CBDC Act, that actually falls under Pillar B, regulatory, supervisory, and oversight frameworks. I see that as just being a review of what they've already done, because to my knowledge, A, B, and C have already been complete. That's 13 different building blocks. Building block 13, pursue interlinking of payment systems. What has Robinhood been doing the last few months? What has Chainlink been doing the last few months? Have we not seen Axlar, Wormhole, Aster Network, all of these new interoperability chains rising to the surface? Then we go back to 14 here. Adopt a harmonized version of ISO for message formats. 14. July 14th is when this is supposed to happen. Same time, July 14th through the 18th. 18. It's 19 building blocks. Almost had you there. But July 14th through the 18th, they're going to be discussing A, B, C, and D all together. By the time we get to the end of the month, all 19 of these building blocks will be complete. Moral of the story is this, ladies and gentlemen. It didn't matter what you held over the last 5 years, this was inevitable. The G20, the group of nations, the US, China, Russia, Africa, Australia, list goes on. All the nations that on the surface appear to be beefing with each other just coordinated a global plan. And they're just about finished. Knowing this, guys, to me it seems that blockchain was the plan all along.